started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and now...
That's right. We are live.
The ghost faced himself, Brandon Tanev.
This isn't like the start of last season when it was just, it looked like the Canucks were just a beer league team not playing defense at all. And just before Chris goes, no, I'm kidding, Chris, you can actually go now.
no, hold on.
Oh, we had to give more time for coming on late. So.
I still had, hold on. All right. Chris go, and then I got something else to say at the end.
So, an elf and a midget in 2 back-to-back games. Yeah, he's definitely on a friendship tour for sure.
Saying, oh yeah, I'm okay with him being, the 6'7" defenseman. No! He is a AHL defenseman right now.
Look, Shonky, don't mind Devin, okay? We all struggle with Devin, so you know.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Ships and Pucks podcast. It is Wednesday. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at Ships and Pucks. We are live also on youtube.com Ships and Pucks, facebook.com Ships and Pucks, as well as twitch.com Ships and Pucks, as well as you watch us as well on Twitter as well, YouTube, and you can subscribe to wherever you get your audio. So we are pretty much live everywhere, as it is Flames Talk Wednesday. So we'll get into some Flames talk. We'll have a good debate about some of the other things that are going on in the National Hockey League. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put them in the chat. We will get to them. And happy Wednesday. And we say hello to Devin. It's been a while. Hello, Devin.
Hello, Kev. It has been a while. Fucking no rest for the wicked over here. Going on all cylinders right now, and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. So I'm happy to make time for this pod, because this is my brightness within the week. Yelling at Sean, tell him to shut up. It's fun.
Hello, Sean.
Hi, Kevin, and fuck you to Devin as well.
The brothers.
God, I missed this.
I just sit here and try to just drive the bus. It's like going on a long road trip. I'm the driver, and you guys are just yelling at each other, and I'm like just driving. I'm just going to drive. We'll get to wherever we're going.
Don't make me turn this car around. Damn it.
Damn. Yes. Yeah. So if everyone's good, pleasantries out of the way, etc. We'll get into we'll have a debate about which player you would rather have. We'll talk a little bit about the Stadium Series a little bit later, and the Chicago Blackhawks hired a general manager, and a couple of other things in the WHL going on as well. But it is Flames Talk Wednesday, or Flames. We talk Flames on Wednesday, and the Flames had a 2-1 week. They lost to the Vancouver Canucks 7-1, a game that was quite frankly full moon for the Calgary Flames. Anything that could have went wrong went wrong. And it started when Rick Ball was not calling the game. I knew there was trouble. It was just a weird game. Then Markstrom skate, then special teams. It just collapsed, and it ended as the franchise record 10-game winning streak. But the Flames bounced back against Minnesota, and they allowed an early goal, and they pretty much said, fuck it, we're not letting this happen anymore. They pretty much have dominated the Wild for the rest of that game, although there was a scary incident. The Wild made a little bit of a run. The Flames came away with the 7-3 victory. And then as well, the Flames then came away with a 5-1 victory yesterday against the Minnesota Wild. That probably, actually, to be honest with you, that game was a lot closer than the score would indicate. I don't want to say that Talbot was terrible. I think it was more Markstrom was awesome than Talbot was terrible, and the Flames were opportunistic, but they came away 2-1. And Devin, I think the first thing that what I take away from this week is that 7-1 loss to the Vancouver Canucks in previous editions of the Flames would have derailed the season, especially at 7-1. You allow the early goal against Minnesota, it would have been it would have been like the fall of the leaves coming off, the trees wilting. This team showed some resilience and just went, oh, yeah, we lost, and let's move on, and we've got other games to play.
Yeah, that it really was indicated early on in that first Minnesota, or not the last game, but the game before that, the first game against Minnesota, that Calgary, it was a one-off the game before, and the fact that they were able to come back and prove that it was a one-off is massive. The Calgary Flames are a team you don't want to fuck with. You want to get on them early, and trying to get them off their game. But the thing with this version of the Flames is they can play it any way. They can play it gritty. They can play it high skill. They can play it end to end. It's fun to watch. I feel like it's been a long time coming for Flames fans, and to see this type of hockey, and it's all to Daryl Sutter. I'm going to say right now, Daryl Sutter is the captain of this team. Period. They don't need a player captain. They lead by from Daryl Sutter, and he is the captain.
That's an interesting take. He's almost like he's the heart and soul of the organization in a lot of ways. He's the conscience of the organization. It's very rare that you would hear that take to a coach, especially when in the NHL coaches are moved along in a high rate. Like, I mean, to change for the sake of change because of panic. It's very interesting that you say that.
Yeah, I mean, there are a bunch of players on this team that could be labeled as captain. We talked about Tanev in the offseason. It sounds like Lucic is massive within that room. And some might argue Michael Backlund, since he's one of the longest tenured players on the team as well. But it all comes down to Daryl Sutter, his system. And when you look for leadership, you look for somebody to set the pace. And Daryl Sutter, at the end of last year, even though we criticized him by not playing the younger players, he set a precedent going into the offseason that the players better come back ready. And they did. And again, in the preseason, we saw three different groups. There's the NHL group, AHL group, and the younger junior players, all in different sessions and ice times. And to me, that just shows a lot of leadership from the top down, and everybody's following his suit. And Daryl Sutter, it was questioned at the beginning whether or not his system, his old school system, is going to work. But hey, no matter what, hard work pays off, period. And especially if you have a buy-in from your players, you're seeing exactly what happens to an organization when you do have that.
I think the other thing too is you also saw what so you can't flip a switch and fix what was like, other than going into the season compared to last season when Daryl took over. There was one major player went out in Mark Giordano, and then they made a big signing, the big money signing with Blake Coleman, and brought him in. But for the most part, all the key players that were there last year and underperforming are here this year and performing at or above expectations.
So Sam Bennett was on his way out too, which you would think that would be sorry, I just want to make a point just with Sam Bennett. Just you would think that he would have been a Daryl Sutter type player, right? And that he would have stuck around.
Was that? No, that was. But yeah, still though, like in terms of like the key players, yeah, it was. They're the key players are the players that are making this team as good as they are. They were there last year. They were there. They're underperforming last year. They were still underperforming under Daryl Sutter when he took over through to the end of the season. It takes a while. And I think that you have to have some patience, and you have to be able to communicate and be able to do and get through to them. And Daryl has. It wasn't a snap. It wasn't a switch that was turned on when he was hired in the middle of the season last year. But he had to set the standard and demand it day in and day out, going from last season and going and through the off season and into the training camp and into the season this year. And you are seeing the buy-in with this team now.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess goes back to also, I think it's a modicum of respect. I think really Jeff Ward, I think he sounds like he's a wonderful human being, but I don't think the team had the same amount of respect towards him that they did to Daryl Sutter. Bill Peters, yeah, Glenn Gullickson, I think most of the time he kind of looked like he wasn't quite in his element as a head coach. He might be better as an assistant coach in Edmonton. But I think what the other thing what Daryl Sutter has done, and he scratched Adam Ruzicka and Dylan Dube for Brad Richardson and Brett Ritchie. And on Saturday, Twitter went, and a lot of people were like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you scratching Dylan Dube? And there's this tweet, and I'm not singling this person out. I'm just pointing out this tweet as something that I feel like encapsulated where a lot of people were going. Just wondering what that fourth line brings to the table apart from being, air quotes, physical. Certainly, Dube and Ruzicka can be more impactful in a game than Brad Richardson and Brett Ritchie. I'll start with my own theory, and we'll see where this goes. I think that it's in part the physical play, because I think, you go after that first goal, that Richardson, Ritchie, Lewis line went and had a bang crash shift and, turned the tide a little bit. But I think that Brad Richardson and Brett Ritchie know and understand their role in this hockey team. As much as we are loath of the fact that Brett Ritchie does not have a single point this year, I don't think Daryl Sutter gives one hill of beans. I don't think Daryl Sutter cares one bit about Brett Ritchie scoring. He wants Brett Ritchie to go out and do exactly what he's done. And Brad Richardson, the same thing. He knows that he's a fourth line player. He plays the game that way, and he knows his role. Whereas Adam Ruzicka and Dylan Dube, Dube, I think, still has some higher expectations of where he wants to be. And Ruzicka is still learning the National Hockey League. So I think that understanding the role, being mature about what their role is, and just simply doing it, I think that would be how I would answer that question. Am I off base there, or?
I don't think so. My definition of a fourth line is win faceoffs, play hard, and play well defensively. That's pretty much in a perfect world, that is what a fourth line does. And if they provide offense, fantastic. And it goes to the whole cliche of getting pucks in deep and banging and crashing. If your fourth line does those things, you'll be successful. And it will take a lot of a massive load off of your top end talent to try and score, essentially, because they're doing that. And I agree with you, Kev. I don't think that Daryl Sutter really gives a shit whether or not Brett Ritchie has a goal or not. Brett Ritchie is there for some leadership. He's there to do those things on the fourth line, and every once in a while, he's dropped the gloves a few times this year. One resulting in an ankle injury, but that is exactly what he's here for. Is for that leadership and to bang, crash, and keep pucks out of the net.
He's the new age goon.
A little bit. I think it is understanding your role and playing it. And I think it's also just there's a style and that Daryl wants to play. And when the Flames are successful, that all 12 forwards are playing that style. And Ruzicka and Dube are still younger, on the younger side of things, and still need to learn and improve. I think we need to be willing to have the conversation about, are we rushing players into the NHL too quickly these days? We're having that conversation in Vancouver with Höglander and Podkolzin right now. And Dube and Ruzicka are all still cutting their teeth at the NHL level. And you look at those last two games, and yeah, Richardson and Richie don't move the needle for a lot of fans because they want the younger players, they want the future and all that, but they're still getting the job done. I mean, at least Richardson. Richie's still a work in progress. I honestly wouldn't have him in there instead of Dube or Ruzicka, but I have all day for a Brad Richardson on your fourth line.
Wins faceoffs.
Yeah, he saved 60% in the last game. And I agree with you. I personally would not have Brett Ritchie in the lineup on a regular basis, and I don't think he's going to be on a regular basis over a Ruzicka or a Dube. But it's very clear that Daryl Sutter thinks this a lot differently, and whatever Brett Ritchie is doing for Daryl Sutter and the team is working. And I think it's just, this team is just bought into whatever Daryl Sutter has put in the Kool-Aid. They're drinking it, they're enjoying it, and they're living it.
They definitely are. I mean, just to touch on Dube, I don't know if he's slotted properly. If he's going to be successful within this lineup, I think he should be playing on that second line with some more talented players. I don't think that he's been, I mean, Sean Monahan, we all know what he's been this year, underperforming. And if Dube's not playing with kind of higher players that could potentially help him push him over the edge, then I don't see him being successful here. And maybe he's not a Daryl Sutter type player. We've seen the reason why he came up so early is because he gave the coaching staff and the upper brass of the Calgary Flames no choice. He played absolutely amazing in the in the preseason, and I mean, got absolutely demolished by Gabranson in his first game, which led to Hamonic breaking his hand. But I don't know. It's hard to tell a player no, and especially when he deserves it. And it's been a slow decline from kind of that peaking point of his first season, and I just don't know if he's getting the confidence that will make him a better hockey player and help his production and just his growth as an NHL player. And I believe that he needs to be slotted within with better players to gain that confidence back. But within that same breath, I'm not saying to switch up the lines. The lines are working, so it's up to Dube to figure it out and push past that mental block that he has. Because I don't have any doubt in my mind that he's talented enough to be in the NHL right now. It's just knowing what it takes to do that, especially with a coach that might not be favoring him. And right now with that lineup, that third line is Monahan, Lucic, Toffoli, which is surprisingly, I think, very effective as your third line. Having Toffoli on down there is unbelievable in my mind. I personally would switch Toffoli with Coleman just to, on paper at least, but as a group they seem to be meshing well. In that fourth line, Trevor Lewis, we've talked about him multiple times on this podcast, saying how well he has done. And yeah, Richardson's winning faceoffs and Brett Ritchie's Brett Ritchie. And just to touch on Ruzicka, I believe he was drafted in 2019. And he's been the fact that a young player has been brought up under Daryl Sutter says a lot about him. And Adam Ruzicka, I have a good feeling about his future as an NHLer, as an NHLer and as a Calgary Flame. It's more of a detriment for Dube to be a healthy scratch, but at the same time, both those players getting a new perspective from eating popcorn upstairs looking down on the ice, that might be the first of all, a wake-up call, and second of all, seeing the game from a different vantage point can help for young players.
Ruzicka was the fourth round in the 2017 draft, by the way.
17. So there you go.
Yeah, he's 22 years old, and I think you're right, Deb. I think there is something there with Ruzicka. He's going to be a good sort of depth piece for the Flames, and that's the other thing. I think we need to. I think there's times where I think fans can get too focused in on the players as opposed to the team.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, the players are what you don't go watch because of Daryl Sutter's behind the bench. You go and watch because you've got the players on the ice making the plays. So it's understandable, but hockey's a team game, and you have to find that right chemistry and that right combination of players on the ice and on lines. And as Devin said, maybe Dube's not slotted properly to get the best out of him, but he needs to be better at figuring out how to be successful in the roles that he's been put in. And that's every young player goes through that. Unless you're a superstar that comes in and basically lights the league on fire, you have to find out where you slot, and you have to figure out how to make that work.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And, I agree with, I think there's something with Ruzicka. I really do. I think there's something there. And Dube is growing pains, and I'm not saying give up on Dylan Dube, but I think we've had this discussion about Dube here before. I wonder if the Flames fan base has overrated him a little bit, and we don't mean that like, was he a top-ish prospect? Yes. Is he turned out the way that we want? Not necessarily. But I mean, maybe there's a bit of an overrate there. But the other thing about this too, and just as I was thinking about it, is let's not rule out what Milan Lucic has done here, because what happened was it was Monahan, Dube, and Toffoli, and then Sutter during the Kraken game switched Dube and Lucic, and they just went and they just continued. And that's because Milan Lucic is another guy that has understood his role on this team. He knows what he's here to do, and he's done it. And, that's, to me, is another factor in this, is what Milan Lucic almost allows Daryl Sutter to not play Dylan Dube because of the way he is playing. And I'm not saying it's like spectacular and you need to go and sit and watch Milan Lucic play, but he's another guy doing what Daryl Sutter wants him to do.
And credit to Jeff Ward for sparking his passion for back in the game. Before you had he had a hard time getting his feet under him with that asshole of a coach. I forget his name. Someone help me. Before Jeff Ward, why Jeff Ward got Bill Peters.
Bill Peters, yeah.
Bill Peters did not give him the light of day at all. And Milan Lucic admitted that he was not in it anymore, and he was thinking about quitting the game. And kudos for Jeff Ward for bringing him back and bringing life back to his game. And like it bleeds through his game, and it bleeds through that locker room. That passion and that leadership is beneficial and a necessity for this team going forward.
I'm trying to figure out if he actually played under Bill Peters, and I was like, did he? And then I look at and like, it just feels like so long ago that whole thing happened, because that was part of the 1920 season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Milan. That was the Lucic for James Neal trade. And I remember Heidi and I doing an interview with Tori Peterson, who does digital content with the Flames, and just talking about how Lucic is, how Lucic has been in the locker room and the influence he was. I mean, yes, it wasn't great on the ice, but he was starting to add something. And of course, we don't need to get into the history of Bill Peters and whatever that was, but and that allows, I think, to blend into the next part. I think that this allows Tyler Toffoli to be what he's been. There's times, I think, just watching Toffoli that he's still kind of confused about what he needs to do, like especially on penalty kills and defensive situations. I've noticed like he's after a play kind of talking to Tanev or talking to one of the defensemen, like, where am I supposed to be? I've seen that a couple of times, but he's been like Daryl Sutter didn't take him long to mesh him into the number one power play. I think he's been everything they've needed and more for the most part for Tyler Toffoli. It's been a great addition. And
this isn't the bet. Like he still has more to give.
Yeah.
Like this is not the top Tyler Toffoli that this isn't his peak potential for what he can bring to this hockey club and bring on the ice. Which is awesome to have that ceiling not met yet, and he's going to be a pivotal point within that PK and that power play. Having him as like high slot with that release, man, there's going to be a lot of times where you'll see him on that power play ripping shots from the top of that slot. It's going to be amazing, and if he is confused, it won't be long for him to figure out what needs to be done on the PK. He's been in that role before, and he's played with Tanev before as well, and a bunch of these players. Like the connections are ridiculous. How he knows all these different people within the organization. So
I'll say like a Steve Dangle trade.
That's exactly it. Where did Tyler Toffoli play with this player or this coach? I'm excited to see what more he can bring, because I know he has a lot more in the tank that he can give.
Yeah, he's close to where he's at, actually, in my opinion. Like it is the details, as Kevin's talked about there, that will help him to get to that next level. But from what I've seen, he's close to what he showed in Vancouver, what he showed in LA, and what he showed in Montreal. But there is still more to give for sure.
Yeah. By the way, I forgot to also add, and my apologies, we are also on the Area 51 Sports Network, so go check us out there, check their work out there as well. I knew, like, I was, you know how the hamster wheel was moving at the beginning there sometimes? Like, did you see some smoke coming out? I felt like I forgot something, and that was it. My apologies. And we're also on the Area 51 Sports Network. Got to give them a shout out as well. But, that's just the whole way that the forward lines are working right now, I think is a good sign. I mean, and touch wood, there's no injuries, but that is working. And Andrew Mangiapane, last night, I just want to point this out, 13:53. He's not even getting over 15 minutes of ice time. And he gets another goal. He gets 2 points. He's +2. It's just, to me, how Daryl's using him. I think there's sometimes I scratch my head. It's like, he's only got that much ice time, but he knows how to use the ice and make use of his ice time.
He is a special player. He just keeps on proving the naysayers wrong. And man, he's going to get a hell of a pay next year, whether that's through arbitration or whether that is Brad Treliving getting off his wallet, because this guy needs to get paid. He's 10th in scoring with 28, or 10th in goals with 28 goals. He's second in away goals with 21 behind Draisaitl and in front of McDavid and Kyle Connor. Tied for third 5-on-5 scoring with Larkin and Forsberg with 19 goals, and behind Connor and Kyle Connor and Austin Matthews on 5-on-5 goals. And he's not on the first power play unit. Kevin, you said it, he's playing 13 minutes a night. Like, and he's not, it is unbelievable what this player is doing. Andrew Mangiapane is going to get paid. He will. If it's not going to be by the Calgary Flames, he's going to get walked to UFA, and he's going to get paid if he continues on this clip, around high 6s, low 7s. That is the reality of what he's putting up, and he's not on the top line. He's on a shutdown role, and he's only in the minimum amount of points or minutes that he's playing. It's a great problem to have. You want to pay these players, but holy, it's going to be a massive offseason for Brad Treliving with Tkachuk, Gaudreau, Mangiapane, and Oliver Shillington all having amazing years.
Yeah, and they've already played hardball with Mangiapane in the past. And if I'm his agent, I'm not letting them do that again. I'm like, all right, fine. We'll just take the qualifying offer. We'll go straight to free agency, and we'll talk then. He's proven that he's worth a very significant raise going into next season.
And the goals that he's scoring are not easy. Look at last night. He was battling in front of the net, got I think it was his foot on the puck or his stick on the puck, and then shot it into the net. Those are gritty goals. He can score. He has a good shot. It's not world class, but it's an accurate, decently hard shot that he has, and he can let it go basically wherever. But it's his tenacity and his ability to get to those hard places and work for the puck, and God, it's so much fun to watch him. It really is.
We have breaking news. We break news on these live podcasts. The Calgary Flames have made another trade with the Montreal Canadiens. It is not a major trade. The Canadiens have traded goaltender Michael McNiven to the Calgary Flames in return for future considerations. That's just happened. It's news. We're talking about the Flames. It is relevant. I made the right call here, and you know it.
You definitely did. Thank you for Brad Treliving for listening in and making this breaking news. That's great.
Thanks, Brad. Brad is a regular listener of the Shifts and Pucks podcast. I'm sure of it. I know he is. Like you should be too. But yeah, I think that this is the fascinating. Maybe we talked about this last week, Devin, Sean, and I, about, with Matthew Tkachuk specifically, in terms of, what you pay everybody. And I mean, this is the big question of the off season is what you pay Johnny, what you pay Matthew, what you pay Mangiapane. And I've been thinking about this, and I know the reputation of the Tkachuks and how they deal with contracts. And Sean made a good point here when he said that, if you're a leader in this team, you got to take a little bit less. I honestly think that Matthew, and maybe I'm wrong, but I honestly think the way that Matthew Tkachuk, there's a possibility he would take less to stay in Calgary. I know the rumors are out there about he wants to go to St. Louis or he wants to play with his brother and all of that. To me, one of the things that I think that this goes back to Daryl Sutter, your Daryl Sutter being a captain point. I think what you're going to get with Daryl Sutter, and it's very clear that players enjoy playing with Daryl Sutter. Like, you're not going to get the stats maybe that you would get elsewhere, but you certainly seem to know what you're going to be doing. And I think Matthew, for the most part, has been a better player this year. He hasn't been the distraction that he's been in the past. I honestly think, and I still think this has a lot to do with playoff success, but I think the way the Flames are building, I could see Matthew I don't think he's going to give a clear hometown discount. I still think that there will be a little bit of a battle, but I don't think it's going to be, I think he may take less to stay in Calgary.
Oh, I want to believe you for obviously a lot of reasons. I can definitely see that thought process, and he is a Daryl Sutter player. There's no doubt about it. Works hard, gritty, and is willing to do the hard work. last year was a hard year for him. We've talked about this multiple times. The puck flip incident with Jake Muzzin, it took him off his game. The dressing room wasn't the same. It seemed like, and yeah, so there's definitely a good thought there that with having Daryl Sutter at the helm, being the head coach, that Tkachuk really enjoys playing under him. But I don't know. I have a feeling that that won't be the idea that he will take less just because Daryl Sutter's here. You got to look at the whole picture, I think. And like I said, it's a nice sentiment, but I just knowing how he's talked about even just his brother's contract, Brady, before Brady signed this year. I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be a very hard contract to negotiate for Brad Treliving and the Calgary Flames. So.
I'm not saying he's going to make it easy, but the one thing that Keith and Brady did not have that Matthew has is a chance to win a Stanley Cup. Brady with the Ottawa Senators are not there. Keith with any of his teams that he played with, they weren't there. I would suggest there's a legitimate argument that Daryl Sutter's the best coach that any of the Tkachuks have ever played with. And that may play into this a little bit more.
Playoff success is going to be massive.
There it is. That's exactly where I was going. There's only one way that it'll happen is if they actually go deep in the playoffs and they can start.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If they absolutely if they crash and burn like they did a few years back and lose in the first round, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed in terms of it's just going to be there. He'll go right to the bitter end and get as much money as he possibly can.
Yeah, and that's going to be the same with Johnny Gaudreau. As amazing as he is right now, if he's been visible in the playoffs again, man, it's not going to be as big of a ticket as everybody thinks it's going to be for Johnny Gaudreau. Because as of right now, if he keeps on this pace, being the driver. Yeah, he's going to get paid. He could arguably get up to 9, I think, if not more. Yeah, playoff success for both of them is a necessity.
Yeah, and then don't get me wrong, and that's where I qualify what I'm saying. We see some playoff success. We see something going towards that. I think that a lot of this gets. I think, except Mangiapane, because I think Sean's right. Mangiapane has a legitimate point about how he's been negotiated with, and I don't disagree with the agent on this. I think that there is some reasonable negotiation on there in terms of how much he should get paid. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by the cat, but it's great. Just not focused by the microphone there for those that are listening on audio. But but I mean, if Matthew and Johnny can see some success and look, you want to pay Mangiapane a little bit more, we can work something out. I think that's what it's going to play with.
Exactly. And you also have your top line center, Elias Lindholm, at a ridiculous deal, 4.85 for the next 2 years after this. If that continued success with that line, man, how could you not sell that?
I think this is something we can talk about going forwards. What are the odds that the Flames do get all three of Tkachuk, Gaudreau, and Mangiapane signed? They don't have a lot of cap space to work with going into next season.
What is it? It's projected $27 million, which sounds like a lot, but with 2 of your top players, and one rising star, let alone Oliver Shillington on a heater too. I mean, I don't think Shillington will be as difficult. You put him on a bridge deal to show me deal to say, hey, listen, it might be a 2-year deal. Show me what you can do, and if it's consistent, we'll pay you. And if it's not, then we know what you are. But yeah, that's hard.
Well, again, but that depends on playoff success, though. That's the thing, right? It depends on what.
No, you're right. I'm just breaking it down in my head now. So if both of them get $9 million or right around there each, Tkachuk and Gaudreau, that leaves about another $9 million. But you have the rest of the team to really. You have Zadorov off the books. You have Gabranson off the books. Michael Stone, forever a Flame, off the books. And then you have your fourth line. I mean, realistically, it doesn't really give you much wiggle room to get Mangiapane at a term and a cap that I think him and his camp would enjoy.
And I don't want us to get into too much of a rabbit hole here, but there's only so much cap to go around, and you have to fill out your roster. As you just talked about how important players like Brad Richardson, Trevor Lewis, Milan Lucic, all those depth pieces are, and let alone that Zadorov Branson pairing has been very good for the Flames, and that is a over $5 million pair. And if you want to be able to have that depth going down through the lineup, you need to be able to pay them. It right now, the Flames are all in on this season. Is it better for the cap to go in on long-term on Mangiapane and let Gaudreau walk?
No. And just because you still don't have that dynamic offensive player there that replaces Johnny. That's not in the lineup. That's not on this roster. That's not in the prospect pool. A Johnny Gaudreau dynamic offensive player is nowhere to be found. And
but what does Johnny's contract look like? His next contract look like? He's 28 years old. He'll be 29 when the next season starts.
It'll be a 7-year deal. 7 years at 9.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking 9.5 even.
Yeah.
So is that actually something that makes sense cap-wise for the Flames?
Cap-wise, I mean, you make it. He sells tickets. He sells jerseys. Yeah, you go there to watch Johnny Gaudreau dance around players, and the way that he plays, the longevity is there, right? He doesn't get injured that often, if ever, and those are the players that you win with. And once again, like it all goes back to playoff success. If you're looking at the at on ice stats, yes, he's great in the regular season, but until he shows it in the playoffs, like you want to make sure that he gets paid and he is happy, because if he signs, I think it's easier for Tkachuk to sign. And at that point, the ball keeps rolling. And Mangiapane, depending on what he wants, he'll get paid here. He'll get paid. But is that extra $1 million, $2 million a year going to make make him look elsewhere? Yeah, it definitely could. But it depends on what he wants. Does he want the money? Does he want both? And if Calgary goes on a run, this shows that this core will be successful moving forwards, especially with your Jacob Markstrom isn't going anywhere. You have basically the defensive core line for the next 2 years at least, with Hannafin and Tanev signed until 23-24. If you want success, they'll make it work. But if they don't, if one of those three is just looking for a payday, it might change the minds of Tree Living and making sure that they do sign, because yes, you don't want to be handcuffed by one of those three players, if not all three. But yes, to your point, you want to make sure that Johnny Gaudreau is a Calgary Flame for life.
Yeah, he is. Gaudreau is one of those guys. I mean, we could debate. We could debate Giordano's number retire or not, whether you think that. But Johnny Gaudreau, I dare say, if he's a Flame for life, there is a potential he's in Lanny McDonald, Jerome McGinley territory as an icon in the city. Just because of his offensive output, his personality, the way a certain media reporter has battled with him. The Flames haven't had that many of that type of players in their history. To me, you want to get him signed you want to put the long term on him, and I think it almost would be to the point where I also wonder if you could almost maybe kick the can down the road a little bit with Matthew Tkachuk and Andrew Mangiapane, qualify them, and say, okay, look, we'll qualify you. We're getting there. Let's see where we go next year. If we don't get far this year, we're building something here, and we'll see what we can do to get you paid. Ooh. So you might almost have 2 years with this, not necessarily one.
That is a dangerous. That's playing with the Flames playing with fire there, because you.
But if you get a cup, it's.
Yeah, we're talking about a team that hasn't won a first round in so long, and we're talking about a cup here. Like man, if they were more like. If they had won rounds and won like, and weren't stuck in mediocrity for the longest time, I think I'd be more willing to say that'd be a move that has a better a chance at paying off. Right now, you have to if you're doing that, okay. Let's put it this way. You only broach that subject after you've gone on a deep playoff run this season.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. If there's a deep playoff run, that's where this plays. If not, I think we have a far different conversation.
And well, worst case scenario, if say for instance, okay, you sign Johnny, okay, and then Tkachuk does a Tkachuk and goes to the arbitrator. They give him $9 million for 1 year. And if next year doesn't go well, you can always trade Tkachuk at the deadline. You can always do that. Not ideal, and not something you really want to do, but that is a potential.
It's fair.
Yeah, you could do that with Mangiapane too, in theory.
In theory, for sure. Yeah. And you would get a king's ransom for Tkachuk, and Mangiapane. His trajectory is still going up. Like the past 3 years have been pretty damn amazing, especially 5-on-5 for him, even last year.
Yeah. I don't know. That they have that's how make or break this season is for the Flames. The more we talk about it, the more I realize it's make or break for them. They have to go on a deep playoff run this year to be able to sell team success to these players so that they can get $1 million off a couple contracts to help open up cap space elsewhere.
Well, I don't know if I would say it's make or break. I think they at least have to win one round, maybe two. If they can get to the Western Conference Final, I think that's okay. If you lose to Edmonton,
deep playoff run.
Yeah, if you lose to Edmonton in the first round, that is going to be a fucking killer for the team. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that you're saying all in cap or cup or bust, but I think if they get a couple rounds, I think it changes the conversation.
I think even going just a step deeper within the thought process of the playoffs. Yeah, you can go deep. How do you lose?
Yeah.
And who do you lose to?
Yeah.
I think because but if you go for it, sorry.
Yeah, you can for instance, it could be very similar to when they won against Vancouver in that first round. And then they got to the second round and got fucking shit kicked. Right? So, a playoff run is nice, But if you're going to be playing against like the upper echelon team of, let's say, it might be a Minnesota Wild, might be a Vegas Golden Knights team in the second round. There's a lot of it all depends on exactly how you get bounced if you do.
That's why I think it has to be 2 rounds or more. So conference finals or more. If it's you win 1 round and then you get punted like they did against the Ducks that 1 year, yeah, that's not going to be good enough. If you win 1 round but you battle it out to like 6 or 7 games, and it's tooth or nail, how whoever got through, then that would be it. That would be a little bit more acceptable. But if you get through to the conference finals, even if you get swept into the conference finals, I think there's still you've won 2 rounds. You're building something, and then maybe there might be a bitter taste in their mouth that they want to finish off something, and you might be able to work that into it. But that's why I say it's got to be conference finals or deeper to be able to sell them on it.
And let alone you got to keep in mind that Daryl Sutter only has 1 more year in his contract as well. Not saying that he can't get an extension, but he's here to win Stanley Cups. He's not here to belittle and just be mediocre.
Yeah. Yep. And Brad said Treliving, I think, is the same contract too. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing with the Flames that I wanted to, I know we do this because we're Tanavologists, and just again, I just can't get over just the way that Chris Tanev plays, just how unbelievably calm and unbelievably poised he continues to show to be. And I know, like, Sean was talking earlier about the idea why you buy tickets. You watch tickets for the players, and you want to see the goals. And we're gonna have our discussion a little bit later here about 2 dynamic offensive players. But man, I may be a geek or a nerd, but I actually enjoy watching good defensemen play hockey. I just I love a good defenseman, watching good defense. I just think it's not like I don't stand up on my seat and go, wow, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen. But man, and they never make the highlight reel, but Chris Tanev, he just does this all the time. Gets people in the right place, blocks the shot at the right time, chips the puck out of the way smartly. I'm sorry, I have to do it again, but Tanev continues to impress me.
His composure, when there's an onslaught or a defensive pressure, it's unreal. He's a heart and soul. He's got those are the type of players that you win with, and he's the unsung hero. It's funny because you look at him and you're like, wow, I'd really want to hear his interview. I really want to hear his talk. He's got long hair. He's missing teeth. You think he'd be a character, but the way that he conducts his interviews is exactly how he plays. Very boring, but if you're a hockey nerd, you absolutely love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things Canucks fans have been saying for damn near a fucking decade. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it up again.
We have a new segment on Flames Talk. It's gush about Tanev.
Yeah,
and that has been what we just had.
Yeah. And then anything else with the Flames that we do need to get into?
Their schedule is amazing as far as this next month. They don't have a massive road trip or anything like that. They have a massive home stands. Their away schedule is Colorado on the 5th, then they come home. Then Colorado on the 13th, then they come home. then go to Vancouver on the 19th, then come home. And every other game is a home game. So they have literally outside of, or what's upcoming is 3 road games for the entire month of March.
Yeah. How big is that Colorado game?
It's decent. It's a good it's a good litmus test to see where they're at, considering Cale Makar is over a point per game, considering they just got to 50 points. Is it like what the Colorado Avalanche are doing this year is it's making history, essentially. They are on a tear like no other. McKinnon's been hurt. Landeskog's been hurt. Burakovsky's been hurt. And they're still trucking along, and they've had mediocre goaltending. That says a lot.
Yeah. Have they?
What?
Mediocre goaltending?
Kemper he's not amazing.
He's been solid.
He's been solid enough, but he's not been like a world beater like Markstrom has for the Calgary Flames.
Just to get back to Markstrom, sorry, I forgot. I wanted to bring this up. One of the things with Tanev that I've noticed with Markstrom is when it's a tire fire in the zone, like he just still seems like when he makes the save, it doesn't feel like there's panic when Tanev's on the ice. He's able to confidently make the save, even though it looks like spectacular. But he's not diving and flopping all over the place. Not that he's ever been that way, but there's a calmness to Markstrom's game when Tanev is on the ice. Anyway, let's back to Colorado.
So we're not talking about a Cararamo spin, breakdancing.
Yeah, I'll remember him, man.
Oh God, yeah. But yeah, they like it is a good litmus test for the Flames.
What's a bigger game, the Colorado game or the Oilers game?
Oilers. It's like as far as everything that goes on, Oilers. But if you're looking at purely where Calgary is, they just beat the best team or one of the best teams in the Central twice, and like you said, Kev, it wasn't like the score wasn't really indicative of last game. It wasn't indicative of what the play was like, right? Minnesota had a bunch of chances, and Calgary was still able to fend them off. And thankfully, Markstrom was Markstrom, and the defensive play was definitely there. But if they come out with a win for Colorado, and depending on how they win, this goes to show that Calgary's not to be fucked with.
I'd say I think it's Edmonton, just because you've got that regional rivalry, and they're a division rival, and you have to find a way to continue to win in division at this point. There's a chance that they end up playing right now. They'd be playing the Flames and Oilers would be playing in the first round.
Fucking give it to me. Do it.
No, that would be Nashville, actually. It would be Edmonton,
Sorry, you're
Colorado.
right. Yeah, it'd be Colorado
would be Calgary, Nashville.
Yeah.
But it could happen. It's not.
Although, it depends on if you're going by points or points percentage. Right now, by points percentage, Edmonton's out of the playoffs. But, yeah, I think it's the Oilers game. I think you just, the Avs are a measuring stick, but you still, Oilers are your biggest rival. Like, you have to beat them. It's like talking about CFL. Like, there are times when if the Stampeders lose the Labor Day Classic, but like still go deep in the playoffs, there are fans who canceled their season tickets because they lost the Labor Day Classic. Like to me, I think it's the Flames and Oilers is important, and that you have to find a way to. They both are, and the Flames are playing the Abs 3 times in this month. They've got 2 games in Colorado and 1 game at home. They play Oilers twice. They play the Canucks once, and the Sharks once. So the rest, you've got Montreal, the Capitals, Tampa. That's another big measuring stick is Tampa.
That's going to be a fun game. And
Detroit,
then you got Edmonton, Washington back-to-back. That's going to be fun.
Detroit, and then you got New Jersey, Buffalo, you got Arizona, and LA. LA would be another division game.
That'll be a big game too.
And then they've got, but yeah, they're actually second in the division right now. So I don't know. Like I said, I think it's just more. I would look in division as opposed to just looking as the measuring stick. But Devin does make good points in the fact that it is a huge measuring stick, and not to mention there is some baggage with Colorado and their fan base.
That's what I was going to say. And they haven't played them since December 9th, 2019. So, and they haven't played them with Daryl Sutter. And I honestly think that you're probably right. The Oilers, and I think just from the Oilers' perspective, I think the Oilers the Flames have had trouble with the Oilers the last little bit here. So I think that's important, but that there's going to be a bitter taste in that mouth for the Flames and going into Colorado. They haven't had it. They've haven't seen them since 2019.
Yep.
2019. So like 2.5 years. So, and I believe that's only going to be the second time since that debacle of a playoff that they've played in Denver. So,
yeah. And the biggest. Sorry, Kev. Oh yeah, I as far as like the Oilers game goes, you want to make sure that you at least win one of those, at least, just to get it out of people's heads that Edmonton Oilers could be the kryptonite of the Calgary Flames, because every time I think about the Flames, I always think about McDavid just doing McDavid things, or the rivalry, right? It's one of those things where they need to win at least one of those for sure, and they need to come out two of three against the Avs.
Before we get into the Pig and Duke commercial here, if we could just touch on the Michael McNiven situation here. 24 years old, 4-4-1 with AHL Laval, .869 save percentage. He is an RFA, according to Ryan Pike. Adam Warner is a Group 6 UFA. And it's just basically some minor league depth for next season. That's really what this trade is. Don't think it's anything else, but just in case you lose Adam Warner, you've just added some depth. It's a depth organizational depth move.
Yeah, he's played 20 minutes in the NHL and has a .571 save percentage.
Yeah.
So not ideal.
Yeah.
According to Cap Friendly, Adam Warner is a RFA.
So, what I'm reading, what Ryan Pike has tweeted in Group 6 UFA. Well, maybe.
I think it just depends on, I think games played, and I think Mcniven would probably fall in that as well. I think they're both would be very similar in terms of what they would have there.
For those on Area 51 that are new to watching or learning about the Flames, Ryan Pike is a key follow for the Flames, by the way. Someone he writes for Flames Nation, you should give a follow to as well. But maybe we'll take the time here to touch on the Pig and Duke and do our what we call our am I using air quotes commercial? We'll take that second here.
All right. Here. Yeah, we have partnered with the Pig and Duke pubs here in Calgary and are part of their Pig and Puck Club. They have 2 locations you can go to and join the Pig and Puck Club. The downtown location at 5034 4th Ave Southwest and the neighborhood pub at 1312 12th Ave Southwest. Members of the Pig and Puck Club can get game day specials when they go and watch Canucks and Flames games at either location. Members are also able to enter a draw for tickets to the April 23rd game at the Saddle Dome between the Flames and Canucks. At the Pig and Duke, you can get their house beers, the Pub Life beers. There are two, a lager and a copper beer that you can get. The lager is a very easy drinking beer that you would associate with post-game beers after your late night hockey game, or you go to the pub after the game and all that. And the copper's got a really nice more sweetness, dark sweetness to it. The Shifts and Pucks podcast, we have 2 tickets to give away as part of the Pig and Puck Club, and you can enter our draw for them by retweeting any of our episodes or pod clips on Twitter, or you can DM us the word of the week on Twitter or Facebook. Any retweet will gain you 1 entry, and a DM of the word of the week will gain you 3 entries. This week's word of the week is whiplash, because you had quite the whiplash for the Canucks in back-to-back games, as well as quite the whiplash for the Flames between that game against the Canucks and now and then the rebound against the Wild. We want to thank Joe and Steven and everyone at the Pig and Duke for supporting the podcast, and we would like to encourage everyone to go out and support them as they celebrate their 10th anniversary as a pub here in Calgary. The 12th Ave location has been around for 10 years. I still can't believe it, but you can go to the 4th Ave location on March 11th and the 12th Ave location on March 12th as they celebrate being a restaurant and pub industry in Calgary for 10 years.
Cool. Yeah.
Let alone whiplash for Oliver Shillington. Thankfully, he's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a dirty play. I didn't consider it a dirty play, but it was.
It was an awkward play. Yeah, I wouldn't say it was dirty.
Yeah. Just a couple other things on the network. Terminal City FC podcast has their episode 20 wake up call that's out now, so check that out on Spotify as well. Joshua and Nathan have a big announcement, and they've got other podcasts going on, so check them out as well. And I've got some articles going on WHL on Area 51 talking about what's going on in the WHL. So follow that as well. So as we switch in here to other NHL, we've got I saw this from former Sportsnet reporter, now Oilers Nation writer Caroline Zwed. I think that's how I pronounce her last name. Is that
Sved?
Yeah. Say it again.
Sved.
Sved. I butchered it.
It's one of those Slavic names where the W sounds like a V of some sort.
Zved.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that, Caroline. But she asked Oiler fans, and she is a former Leaf person as well, who you would rather have, Austin Matthews or Leon Draisaitl. And saw some Oiler fans say that this was pretty much a no-brainer. I thought, well, this is a fascinating conversation that I love to have with Devin and Sean. And we also like doing these player comparables. It's good debate and good discussion. So maybe we'll start with Devin. Devin, Mr. Leaf fan, Matthews or Draisaitl.
It's a fascinating debate. It really is. I think I honestly, I'm going to sound like a homer, but I'm going to take Austin Matthews. I think if you peel back that onion a little bit, I think that the drive of Austin Matthews is more prevalent outside of points, outside of everything. Is more prevalent than Leon Draisaitl, and I'm probably going to get berated. You can tweet me at Gordhouse09 on Twitter about it. Love to have a conversation with you. But both players are very dynamic. Obviously, Draisaitl, he's on a different level than the majority of the players, but I think Austin Matthews, he brings that it factor that Draisaitl doesn't. And once again, I mean, obviously the Draisaitl is a fantastic player, but the the shot that Austin Matthews has is deceptive. That is on a different level than what Draisaitl can bring. And I think you already have a kind of two similar players with, even though they're different builds with McDavid and Draisaitl. But I think if you switched the players and you had McDavid with Matthews, I think that would be a very, very, very scary and different Oilers club than what they would have right now with Draisaitl.
I went and pulled up some of the possession stats and everything, and compared to because with these two players, you've got with these two players, they're playing in duos. Draisaitl and McDavid, Matthews and Marner. If you take those players away from them, and they have to play on a line on their own without those players, though the stats are pretty stark. The fact that I think it shows that Matthews is able to carry a line and drive play as being the top guy on a line more than Draisaitl can. Together, Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid over the past 3 seasons have a 52% possession stat, so Corsi percentage. They have a goals for percentage with them on the ice at 56, and they have a expected goals for percentage of 52. Draisaitl without McDavid has a possession percentage of 48%. They're basically on par for goals, but there's a significant drop off as well for expected goal for percentage at 47% compared to the 52. Now you compare that to Austin Matthews with Mitch Marner. Their Corsi percentage, their possession percentage is 55%. Their goals for percentage is 63 together, and their expected goals for percentage is 61. While Austin Matthews without Mitch Marner holds the Corsi for the possession percentage at 55% of the shot share. The goals for percentage drops to 55. But the expected goals for doesn't drop significantly. Well, it still drops significantly, but it's still at 55%. And you look over the past 3 seasons, it's and all those metrics, Austin Matthews is the leader there. So to me, if I'm picking between the two of them, I'm taking Austin Matthews because I know he can drive a line better than Leon Draisaitl can.
Can we clip that?
It's going to be clipped.
Beautiful.
Don't worry.
All right.
It will be. Don't worry. Hi, the editor's here.
You go back, and that's been a knock on Leon Draisaitl for years. Yeah, he's a really good hockey player, but every time you take him away from Connor McDavid, he doesn't seem to be able to drive the play near as much as you think he should.
And it becomes pissy.
Austin Matthews is not pleasant with the media either. But,
well, no. I'm talking about if he's not on the same line as McDavid, he's pissy. And Matthews, I mean, he's surrounded by talent, so it doesn't matter where he is, he'll thrive.
I have 2 questions, though, just on this. First of all, I think we've had this debate, but I want to ask it again. Is Leon Draisaitl a center?
I think
he's a center. He can play center, but he's more effective on the wing.
Yeah. he can play a center as a center, and he's still a number 1 center in this league, but he's not at the level of an Austin Matthews at that same position.
Second question, and I understand the puck possession stats, and that's been one of the criticisms about McDavid and Draisaitl's game, but I have to ask. I know we watch a lot of highlights with McDavid as a puck possession guy, and he blows through players, but is McDavid truly a puck possession style of player?
No.
because that's where analytics and my eye test clash. So I don't necessarily see McDavid as a guy that holds the puck for a really long period of time. I'd have to look and see about. I don't know if there are stats out there that show that.
Well, I've got this. Like, let's pull out the Corsi for percentage, the shot share when Connor McDavid's on the ice without Leon Draisaitl, and compare that to what Leon Draisaitl without Connor McDavid. Leon Draisaitl without Connor McDavid, the Corsi for percentage, the shot attempts for percentage with Leon Draisaitl's 48%. With Connor McDavid's 53%. So he's actually a higher shot share percentage without Leon Draisaitl than he is with. And goals for as well, it goes from a 56 to a 54. There is rounding here, by the way. And then the expected goals for goes up as well without Leon Draisaitl, from a 52 to almost 56%.
I think the reason why is it's mental. It's because McDavid, when he's with Draisaitl, feels like he needs to share the puck and needs to make Draisaitl relevant on that line, right?
Well, it's again, it's about finding, like, go back to how when we talked about with the Flames, it's about finding that right chemistry and that right combination, how to make things work. We talk about Elias Lindholm as taking away some of his offensive abilities to be a better 200-foot player. And sometimes you have to do that. The reason I said no in terms of McDavid being a more possession style player is that the way he plays is speed based.
Yeah.
And it's north-south speed based. And once you get in the zone, it's a lot harder to make those plays at that point.
That's a good point. And I also, and just to expand on my point that it's mental. Listen, the reason why they are put together is to score, right? And they have to use each other. But to Sean's point, it's chemistry. They have a certain amount of chemistry because they're both great players. But they don't have the same chemistry as far as I'm concerned, the Lindholm, Tkachuk, Gaudreau line when they're together.
Let alone the Matthews, Marner, and Bunting line right now.
That's right.
Or just Matthews and Marner's period.
Yeah. Well, it's just maybe going on a bit of tangent here. Michael Bunting. Holy fuck. That guy is a player. We're talking about Mangiapane. He's the Mangiapane of the Toronto Maple Leafs. You think
he's not that he's making you not miss Zach Hyman?
That's exactly what I was going. Zach Hyman, you go take that money. You go take that money up there in Edmonton, and I'm facing north right now, and I'm pointing north because I live in Calgary. And you can go there and you can have fun with playing on the third line right now. Third line. As far as I'm last week when I was looking at daily faceoff in the lines, Michael Bunting is 5-on-5. I was looking at the stats and he kept on coming up in the same area as Andrew Mangiapane. That's huge. That's absolutely massive. And arguably, I'm sure if we looked at it. Bunting in comparison to Hyman, and there's more of more stats on obviously Hyman being on that line, but Bunting is, if you're going to look at it, I would bet that Bunting would be way ahead of Zach Hyman.
How many points, 5-on-5 points, does Michael Bunting have right now?
Oh, I looked at this. Kev, you go, because I looked at it already.
I know. I'm looking at his salary and his draft because to me, the fact that he's making 900. Look. I know that most of Canada doesn't want to praise the Toronto Maple Leafs, and what Kyle Dubas has done, but Michael Bunting is making $950,000 for the next 2 seasons.
Oh yeah, that makes me giddy.
I just want to remind you that Mike Hoffman is making $4.5 million.
Michael Bunting has more 5-on-5 points than Leon Draisaitl, than Mitch Marner, than Connor McDavid, than Mikko Rantanen. Like,
Then Alexander Ovechkin.
It is.
He's got the same amount of points as Alexander Ovechkin at 5-on-5. Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of not so much about Mangiapane. I see that one though. He kind of reminds me more of Matthew Tkachuk, just because he's in the fabric of the game and sort of like that. But
that's why I said he's literally a Zach Hyman replacement.
Yeah.
At a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
Like an insane thing with goals too. Like he's right up there too. Like he's 6th in 5-on-5 goals in the league.
17, right?
17. Again, more than Ovechkin, more than Draisaitl, more than McDavid, more than Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah.
The 5 players that have more 5-on-5 goals in the league this season than Michael Bunting are Austin Matthews, Kyle Connor, Dylan Larkin, Philip Forsberg, and Andrew Mangiapane.
Yep.
He signed as an unrestricted free agent back in July 2021. Like really late. He wasn't early. He wasn't one of those free agents that everyone wanted to go get. He was that was an outstanding. Again, I understand. I understand that there's people out there that don't like the Leafs, but Michael Bunting was an incredible find for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you just have to say that from an objective point of view. That was a great move. I'm going. So to me, just to add to this, Dylan chimes in. He says, "Not fascinating at all. Matthews easy. Draisaitl's a Malkin. Matthews is a Crosby." And Jean Guy says Matthews all day. It's a no-brainer. One has managed to lead his team to some measure of success. The other's had only personal success, even with Connor McDavid next to him. By the way, a lot of Oilers fans' arguments about Draisaitl were we had playoff success with Leon Draisaitl. That was how long ago? That was literally 5 years ago, and you're going to hang your hat on that argument. I'm going to say something that will piss off a lot of Oilers. I'm going to and I think the stats are going to back me up.
Don't do this on a Flames. Sorry, don't do this on a Flames podcast.
Well, I'll say it again when on the pregame show. Leon Draisaitl is the most overrated player in the National Hockey League. I could give a shit about his points. I never see him in the back end of his defensive zone. I don't. I'm not going to ever deny that he has some dynamic offensive talent. Is he smooth with the puck? Sure. But there are a ton of players that if I was starting a hockey team, I would start way before I would start Leon Draisaitl. And one of them would be Austin Matthews. And I think as fascinating as this debate is, I don't think that this debate is even close. I think it's Matthews, and it's by an actual country mile.
Love it. You should make a list of who you think is better than Leon Draisaitl.
Barkov, Huberdeau, Ovechkin, Crosby, McDavid, Lindholm, Matthews, Marner.
I mean, you literally could go on and on. Was my point is that the amount of gap in between all that is ridiculous. Because sure you can put up points. You arguably have two of the best offensive players up in Edmonton, but what success have you had? What tangible success other than 5 years ago going to the playoffs and winning a few rounds?
I mean, what was it? 1 round?
Yeah, they won 1 round, and then Ryan Kessler took over.
There you go. Like it always goes back to it's a team game. Sean brought this up earlier in the podcast. It's a team game. And what is your chemistry like? What breaks down from first line, second line, third line, going down the defense, your goaltending, your coaches, systems, all of it has to be gelling. If it's not, look how many coaches they've gone through up there. You know, I do honestly feel bad for the Edmonton Oilers. I do. Because if I was, to a similar extent, the Toronto Maple Leafs are in a similar boat, right? You have all the offense in the world, no tangible success. I don't know. It's really a tough place to be if you're an Oilers fan, because you really want to defend your team, but in all reality, you have no goaltending. Mike Smith I don't think he's going to go back to his original form. He wants to. He's a competitor. Mikko Koskinen, you don't know what you're getting from him from each game. He's on a heater right now because he's won 2 of his last 3. And then you're looking at that defense, and it's not even close. Not even close.
Yet they've won 7 of their last 10 under Jay Woodcroft. So
well,
for Oilers fans, they feel like
new coach bump.
They got the new coach.
Yeah. But Woodcroft has been a little more focused on team defense too, and talked about how they need some from all of them. So, but I just have one thing to say in terms of like that. Bring up Jean Guy's comment about one has managed to lead his team to some measure of success, and the other has only personal success, even with Connor McDavid next to him. To be honest, they both have the same, like in terms of team success, both teams have basically been the same. So I do see more ability. I see Austin Matthews with a better ability to lead his team going forwards than Leon Draisaitl would.
And his defensive game is very underrated as far as Austin Matthews. If you watch Leafs games, which I know it's shoved down your throat, and that Austin Matthews is on all the fucking time on all the networks, but his defensive game has it's been night and day from 3 years ago till now. It really has. And now I know that's like, you could call that podcasting or overstating the fact, but that's actually true. He's actually taken a lot of time to get those details right.
I think that in some ways with this debate, the one thing that almost plays against Matthews is the fact that the Leafs are shoved down our throat, because there's this hatred. Is like, we don't want to like Austin Matthews. And I think there's other things that play into that, to be honest with you, with Austin Matthews as well. But I think if he was on Winnipeg, or he was on Montreal, or he was on another team, I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, I think more people would be where Dylan and Jean-Guy and we are. It's like, no, that's Matthews and it's not close. It's there's a lot of I hate the Leafs in this argument.
Well, and he has a punchable face, honestly.
He does. And a face that only a crossbar could love.
Didn't McDavid go into the crossbar too most recently? Yeah. I'm pretty sure he did.
I didn't see it.
Anyways, obviously he didn't lose any chiclets, or maybe he did. I don't know. Everybody knows what happened to Matthews because, once again, shoved down your throat. But yeah, Kev, you make a good point, man. If he was on any other team, it'd be different.
But his response was funny. Yeah, I thought it would be great to put my face into the crossbar and just see what that was. I thought that was kind of funny to me. But.
I mean, if you're asking him what went through his mind and to go through, there was no, like, it was a freak accident, and that was a bad question.
Yeah.
There are a lot of bad questions by the media, and I know it's hard for them to get more out of the players and they come up with good questions because all of it is pretty much the same. Yeah, but at the same time, don't be that stupid.
No.
Unless you're Steve Simmons.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Comment below about that and give us your take. And yeah, I didn't stutter when I said it. Leon Draisaitl is the most overrated player in the National Hockey League. Didn't stutter. Good luck, Oiler fans.
Suck it, Graham.
Yeah. I love you, Graham.
I don't.
There was a lot of people that were blasting the NHL for not promoting the Stadium Series, and I was sort of confused because there has been, whiplash being the word of the week. That also just relates to the world that we're living in right now, where, just after our podcast last Wednesday, Sean, we had the news, one of the biggest news stories that we have had in our history. Literally, we are watching and tweeting about a war, and so much else is going on here that, I don't think that it is unfair to criticize the NHL about the marketing towards the Stadium Series. It is just in an inopportune time. I don't think it was anybody's fault.
That being said, I agree with you, Kev, but also the Stadium Series is more for the local, the team hosting it than anything else now. And if you want to watch outdoor hockey, go watch outdoor hockey. It was a lot of fun to watch, the show, the showmanship and everything with Nashville. You had it was fun and it looked good. But we've done so many outdoor games now that the novelty is worn off for the TV viewer for the most part. But it's still a big event for wherever it's being hosted. And as you said, there is so much going on, and it's so hard to say, yeah, this is going on, but watch us play hockey in Nashville outdoors. I think right now, I just look at it and it's on, I'll watch it, and I'm sure it's going to be, for the most part, pretty solid in terms of entertainment value. Nashville's country music related, so if that's not what you're into country or in musically, you may not enjoy it, but guess what? Music is an acquired taste, and everyone acquires different tastes. It's very subjective. So I think it's just, for me, I think I look at it now and I'm I have no issues with them not shoving it down our throats that they're doing a Stadium Series game, when for the longest time they would have 2 or 3 a year, and the novelty went away real quick.
It's almost been 2 decades since the very first outdoor game. When I looked that up, it blew my mind. It was November 22nd, 2003. Edmonton Oilers versus the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, that was such a freaking cold game too. I remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's 2 decades of it. I'm with Sean on it. It's one of those things where if you're not there, then the novelty is worn off. And
before all this happened, did the NFL make a big deal about them going over to London over the past couple of years? No. So, and everyone always talks about NFL being the juggernaut and the thing that you talk about in terms of promotional work and how big a deal it is for in the States. They didn't do it.
35 outdoor games, NHL outdoor games. There's been 35. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the uniforms were nice. I can't believe this is the first time Tampa Bay has been in an outdoor game, though.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
I mean, as far as talent goes, right? That's what you're talking about. Is just
that's because of talent, not because of where they are at. But to me, come on, Tampa. You should be hosting Tampa Bay at some of these. How are the 2-time that if anything the NHL criticize the NHL about is how do you not get the 2-time Stanley Cup champions on front of your viewers' eyes more often than this?
Yeah. Yep.
With jerseys that say their jersey should have said LTIR.
I think we have one of our first merches there for you, for Kev and Sean.
Oh, we had an idea of a name change. I'll tell you after. But
Okay. Inside baseball, love it.
LTIR wins cups. Anyway, we won't do that. So that I just thought that was interesting. It's a good event, and yeah. The Chicago Blackhawks hired Kyle Davidson, who they brought in as the intern to replace Stan Bowman as general manager. It sounded like this was the guy all along. Not sure what to say much about this, really, from my perspective. I just feel like the Blackhawks are. I don't think the Blackhawks get it. That's maybe where I'm at.
That's kind of where I'm at too. Like, I had nothing against Kyle Davidson, but we went through all of this just to get an internal candidate when you could have gotten someone from outside who could spearhead the change that is needed in that organization. And they go with the internal candidate. I think this is an absolute PR swing and a miss for this franchise that is already just an absolute dumpster fire. You went through all that with everything coming out in terms of what happened to Kyle Beach, and then you had a couple other things come out, and then that Rocky Wirtz outburst, and now you went with the internal candidate. I think it's a completely tone deaf hire, and that's, I guess, I have nothing against Kyle Davidson, but he has a very steep road to climb here, hill to climb here, because to try and fix this, because to me this just seems like it's the same old now.
Yeah, it doesn't make too much sense. As far as with everything that has gone on, I could see maybe the reason why they didn't do an external candidate was because of, he probably has one of the most knowledge of what's happening as far as hockey goes with this club, because you have Patrick Kane with 1 year left at 10.5. They've said that the DeBrincat is potentially out there. Hagel's out there to be moved potentially. So I just think that as far as hockey goes, he might have the most knowledge of what's going on within that organization, which you need to figure out what you're going to do with Patrick Kane. Obviously that's not going to be a in-season trade, if there is a trade, depending on what he wants as far as Kane goes. There's a lot that's going to be happening within that team for their this next offseason that's going to be pivotal. You need to make sure you get enough for Kane. You need to make sure that if you are getting DeBrincat out, that he gets a massive return as well. And outside of that, you need to make sure that the vision and the amount of repair that needs to happen within this organization for the fans, for the players, for ex-players, is very, very prevalent within his role, not just hockey.
Well, you almost wonder, though, if no one wanted that job. I wonder if they almost had to go, you know what? No one's going to take this. We have to almost go with Kyle Davidson, because no one, was there any indication of anyone really prevalent to be interviewed for this?
Literally.
Oh, yeah.
I really hope it was him, man. That would have been amazing.
That would have been hilarious.
Well, they did have that hiring firm, Sportsology, I believe.
Yeah.
Helping them with the search. They were looking at our Raptors representative. I believe it was, I can't remember her name.
Teresa Resch.
Yes.
Was her name, yeah.
And they're looking everywhere outside of hockey to see if they could bring somebody in. And to me, that's very, I can understand the thought process there, but I think with where the Blackhawks are at, somebody who has experience within the NHL was necessary to get them out of this massive hole that they've dug themselves for the past decade.
Yeah, but I don't know how the hell anyone I could not work with Rocky. Like, not only that outburst in front of a Chicago Blackhawk longtime alumni. Just like, I will never forget Ed Olchuk's face, because he literally had to compose his eyes. It was, I did the Brandon Tanev ghost face. That was as close to Brandon Tanev's ghost face as I've ever seen someone just try to hide how embarrassed he was. Like, they're going to be a dumpster fire for a long time in Chicago. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on where you go with that.
Yeah.
Well, they don't even have their own first round pick for this upcoming draft.
Yeah, that went to Columbus.
Yeah, Chicago is currently 25th in the league in points percentage, and that pick's going to be a lottery pick.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. As far as cap goes, though, if they get Kane off the books, if they trade Marc-Andre Fleury at the trade deadline this year, which it sounds like he could be potentially on his way out, their forward group, no one's signed past the next 2 years. Hagel at 1.5, and then you have McKenzie on an entry deal at 800,000, and that everybody else is gone. Does not have a contract. Obviously, you have Seth Jones on that massive extension at 9.5. Connor Murphy, talk about underrated player. He's on a contract extension at 4.4, and then Jake McCabe for $4 million, and all of those go at least till 24, 25. So that is the shining, trying to make shit look good. That is their kind of crowning achievement, if you will, for the next few years.
They do have Tyler Johnson there, and his contract runs till 23-24 at $5 million per as well. But he's currently on the LTIR, and I think he also had a very similar procedure to Jack Eichel.
Exactly.
Yeah, they do have a lot, and they do have a lot of money. And then Riley Stillman's also signed through 23-24 at 1.35.
No.
So they do have a lot of that, but they've got DeBrincat, Kirby Dach is a player, but they don't have much up. They don't have much on the back end coming up through the system or in the pipeline, let alone up front. So there's a lot of question marks too. So.
And they gave up in Cole Sillinger. They gave up a really good centerman in that draft. Well, they didn't give it up. The first round pick that could have been theirs was Cole Sillinger, which would have been a good ad for Chicago. But the Columbus Blue Jackets have in the future Cole Sillinger and Kent Johnson down the middle.
And then they said they also have that Chicago's first round pick for this upcoming draft too.
Yeah. I did the sim, by the way, just for the fun of it. They're picking 8th. So Philadelphia won.
Tyler would be cringing.
It wasn't me this time, Tyler. It wasn't me.
No, I didn't do it for Vancouver. I just did it. I did it for Chicago. So I don't think it counts as me doing it as a loser thing anyway. So
yeah.
So there. Anything else NHL that we need to touch on here?
I don't think so.
I guess the one other thing I wanted to a couple of other things just in terms of something interesting that I don't think people realize is WHL and CHL overagers can now be signed by the NHL. We saw one yesterday. The Capitals signed a Thunderbirds player. I'll get his name. I think it's Harrison. I'll pull that up. But there are a number of guys that deserve a little bit of a look. Bailey Peach from the Victoria Royals is a guy. Jake Lee from the Kelowna Rockets is another guy as an overager that I would love to see. Clay Hannes is another one. I think Taylor Gauthier, by the way, got signed by the Pittsburgh Penguins yesterday. So it's not one of those really huge media days, but it's good to see some of these overagers get an opportunity, get another shot within the National Hockey League. It's Henrik Robinski, by the way, that got signed by the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, they're good. They're good free depth options, and maybe if you scout properly, you see something that was missed, you can get something, someone who can step up and be more than a depth option. And when I say depth option, I'm meaning AHL player at this point.
Yeah,
which is very key. Like I think people don't you need to have a good AHL team to bring up players. We talked earlier about players being brought up to the main roster too early. But if you have a good AHL team and a good development program, them playing a year or two in the AHL, maybe like a year longer than they would like, doesn't necessarily hurt the development of younger players.
Yep. Yeah, I just always love to see people try and get some success, and there's always some misses in the draft that don't get an opportunity, so it's good. And like one guy for the Kelowna Rockets that that they got from the Hitmen, I think has worked out really well for the Rockets anyways. Adam Kidd, he was acquired for Steel Quarrying. Not sure if when you watch that Hitman Regina Pats game, Sean, if you noticed Quarrying or not. I know you got to see Connor Bedard, but
I was watching for Bedard, and then I got there was a couple fights. I didn't really look at too many other players. I just was waiting for someone to really stand out, and the only one that really did was Oliver
Tulk.
Oliver Tulk. He stood out to me on one of the Hitman's power plays, and he's a young kid. He is very small, very slight, but if he can put on some height and weight, he's got some skating, some good. He's a very smooth skater, and someone to watch in the next year or so, because he'll be a 2023 draft eligible player, I believe.
Yep. By the way, March 23rd, the Prospects game. So you know. Anyway. Well, let's leave it here, unless we have anything else. No, we're good. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
Follow me on Twitter at GordHowe09.
Tyler TNOBLE, Chris is Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. I am KEVOLE. Of course, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitch.com Shifts and Pucks, Twitter.com. Of course, follow us live there as well. You can watch us there and wherever you get your audio. We will be back we'll have our daily news clips back tomorrow and Friday, and then Monday. We normally do Canucks talk, but it is the Flames and the Oilers. It is the Battle of Alberta. So we will be doing a pre-game show, Flames Oilers, before that game. So join us for that. And then we're back to Canucks on Wednesday. I'm assuming we're going to be Wednesday evening, considering the schedule of our other two friends. So keep an eye out for that. We'll post that on Twitter. But thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to retweet our stuff. Check us out on Area 51. Check everything out going on there as well. And we will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.